What is a giveaway that a new job will be awful? When the employers are hard selling the position or use the phrase make up to $. I'll let you in on a secret, you will not make anywhere near that much money. You're replacing someone who didn't have the job for very long, and the same story was true for them. God, this rings true. I'm going on 10 months in my current position. I hold the record. Prior guy was 7 months. Before that was a chain of 5 and 6 monthers. I get told all the time that people are amazed I'm still here and that I'm the best one ever to take this job. Super good career trajectory, yada yada. I have an interview in 3 hours. When people who have worked there for decades are still in entry-level positions. Every time you request a personal day off or vacation time, your boss says it's inconvenient for you to be away then, and to ask again at a later date. You feel dismissed, undervalued and not appreciated for the good work you do. Lack of safety regulations. If you get there and the first day notice that they cut corners with things regarding safety, it says a lot about the company and how it views its employees. Found that out at my current job within the first day. Hey, why is there no safety shower? Where is the chemical waste container? What do you mean pour it down the sink? That is illegal. What do you mean? You need someone to introduce you to your new position. You're supposed to know what you're doing. That's why we hired you. If there is a crappy box of donuts or some other crap in the break room once a week and it's the only thing that seems to spur anything like joy in the employees there. When you meet your boss or co-workers that you will be seeing on a daily basis and just understand that there is a personality clash. You are assigned different and more responsibilities than what was negotiated at the time of hire. Yup, then if you speak up, they point to the other duties as specified clause. Having way too many bosses or people directly above you, without a clear hierarchy, and if they can't even give you an idea of the average day's workflow schedule tasks. Bonus points if they treat it as borderline insubordination to communicate when conflicting orders compete for your time. You're supposed to just get it done instantly. When the HR lady took me to a quiet room to fill in some forms at my first day and then looked around to check no one was looking at us and told me get out while you can. When HR is telling you to get out, freaking run. When people that work there can tell that you're excited and start mentioning that'll change soon. When the job description doesn't match the actual job that you'll be doing. If they ask you to start early and burn a bridge with your current employer. If you show up to a job interview and they more or less hire you on the spot, it's a sign that they're desperate. From my experience anyway. I thought that was just because I was so amazing. All the employees seem new to the job. Or most of them are fresh grads. You start getting department-wide emails from one person complaining about another person not doing their job. If you see this happen twice, start looking for a new job ASAP. The one co-worker who isn't a manager supervisor who is always checking what you're up to and bossing you around. I'm currently ignoring her right now. We're like a family. The last job I had, I was told this. I'm not surprised because meetings devolved to shouting matches that were initiated by management. So much this. The worst companies I've worked for all refer to themselves as family. The best acknowledge that it's a job and a trade of my service for their compensation. During the interview, me, what is your favorite part of your job? Interviewer, this is a good one. At my last job, which was crap, I was interviewing someone and this exact situation happened. I think I said, you can wear shorts. Every time a customer doesn't buy the most expensive version of the product you're selling. Manager, so let's talk about what went well with that customer, and let's also talk about what maybe could have gone better. Pro tip, if you get a little coaching session, talking to every time a customer is shopping on a budget, you're in an extremely toxic environment. It will foster self-loathing, addictive habits, a feeling of helplessness, and weight gain. And you will develop a growing tendency to lie to and manipulate your customers. When you come in for the interview and they offer a completely different position than the one you applied for. Well, this can work in your favor on rare occasions such as applying for an entry-level position. In the interview they see you speak fluent Spanish and this better position just open up, so you interview about that instead. But for the most part it seems like it's used as a bait and switch to get people into interviews for crappier jobs than advertised. If in the listing you see the words rockstar, guru, ninja, etc, run far and don't stop. See also, every startup ever. A few things I look for is 1. All the cars in the parking lot are beaters. Not to judge people on their cars. Some people don't mind saving cash and buying them, but everyone except a few mean there are some big pay divides. 2. If you go for a tour and you notice the workers look on edge or are stressed, not a grin to be found, chances are it will most likely be a hostile work environment. Anything along the lines of wear many hats. This generally means things are poorly organized and undefined. People arguing in the main reception about getting screwed over by the boss by getting their overtime cancelled at Christmas. Source: went for an interview where the production manager and employees were yelling at one another in front of me while I was waiting to go in. No one attempted to move away or quieten down. Note the frick out of that one. I was hired to a newly created position at a luxury car dealership group. The GM of the dealership I was at, corporate offices were upstairs there, wanted nothing to do with me and thought the VP was an idiot for making this position and hiring me. Basically it was going to be scheduling appointments with new customers to install their license plates and tutor them on their infotainment systems. The first 3 days I was there I was given no place to work, no desk, no computer, no phone, etc. I was given no schedule, no dress code, no tasks, no training materials. I was told to go figure out how the systems in the cars worked and that was it. So I did that as best I could, except they wouldn't give me keys to any vehicles. The GM just ignored me constantly, so I went to the VP to express some concerns and he called in the GM to sort it out. As soon as we left that room it went back to the way it was. I did what I could with what I was given, but if I had no computer or phone how could I schedule appointments and meet customers? Without a schedule how would I know when to come in? I quit that first week. For $12 an hour I was over his BS. After a long and exhaustive job search I finally got an offer, but the salary was a bit on the low side and I'd be taking a pay cut from my previous job, even though I was unemployed at that moment in time. So I called the HR lady at like 9 AM. So I had a good chance of reaching her, and I said I'm really excited to come work there, but I'd like to see if there's anything additional that can be done salary wise. She says hang on, I'm at the grocery store. I'll get to it later, but then says well, why don't you just call your future boss? I hadn't talked to the guy outside of a short interview and had been working through her the whole time. I felt uncomfortable addressing it to him, since I hadn't really interacted with him. So I tell her I'd prefer if she does. Also she's HR. So, she emails him from her phone, he responds with just number and she forwards that to me, without any comments, doesn't try to sugarcoat it, etc. Just a weird and unprofessional vibe, like they weren't even trying to fake like they had their crap together. Wound up spending 3.5 years there and it was awful. It's such a horribly run company that's spinning down the toilet. Spent much of that time looking for a new job. On the bright side, at least you got paid to look for a new job. When you get asked to take over the outgoing IT manager's job, and a couple weeks later get the title IT assistant instead. When they tell you that per state law, they don't have to give you any breaks in 8 hours besides 30 minutes for lunch. I'm going to need you to fill out this timesheet every day, in 15-minute increments. Don't look back. Yup, electrician at a meat plant. They wanted to know what every 15 minutes block of my day was spent doing. By the end I started to fill it out honestly. 1:15 2:30, elbow deep in rotting pork fat. 2:30 3 o'clock, cleaning entire body with peroxide. 3 o'clock 4 o'clock, 15 minutes break. On your first day, someone gets fired. There are weekly all-hands meetings where the owner of the company rants about how crappy everyone is. The owner disappears for a few days. Her husband was calling the office trying to find her. Eventually she was involuntarily committed to the psych ward. Those three were all on one job. They specify that they want you to be flexible with your work schedule. In my experience it only ever flexes one way, which is me spending more and more of my own time on work. High turnover. I was hired to consult for a large fitness company most Americans are familiar with. They wanted me to observe their sales call center. I told them I'd like to start the gig on a week in which they were starting a new training class so I could observe that as well. The director looked at me with a puzzled expression on her face and explained that they always had training classes going. It was a call center of about 50 people and the training classes that lasted 2 weeks were 30 people deep. That means that even if half the class fails training, they are replacing 15 out of 50 people every 2 weeks. Years later I still think about that place and how depressing it was. Thankfully I was only there for 6 weeks. I hate burn and churn sales environments. And nowadays I choose not to consult for companies who don't believe in investing in the happiness of their sales force. When your boss asks you how you would react if an authority figure were to get drunk at work and scream obscenities at you. Hypothetically, of course. If there's a permanent now hiring, inquire within sign. A few places in my area have these. There's a reason for that. Nobody is still around who started the project you will be responsible for. When they completely neglect employee wellness for revenue, the two usually go hand in hand when done correctly. Traditionally, happy employees make for happy shareholders. First day at the new job for a healthcare company, went to the department and the guy who had hired me had transferred. His replacements flat out told me they didn't want or need me but showed me where my desk was and that was that. Worst year ever as the company was going to get merged and had hired consultants to look for redundancies. People were quitting like crazy and I went through, like, 5 managers. Then the merger failed and the executives gave themselves nice bonuses for leading the company through a difficult change. People were still quitting though. Greatest feeling was when I added my resignation to the stack. Oh, and during that year I taught myself mid-access programming. This was way back in the day, and created my own internal clients to keep me busy. They use trial versions of key software. They are suspiciously vague in the description of your duties. Worse when this is coupled with generic skill requirements. I've only ever had 4 jobs and one of them bad, but I can give a general sense. 1. You interview with multiple people but it's not a smooth process. Or, Shirley, reception. Where the heck is Jim? He's supposed to be doing an interview today. Oh, he totally forgot. He's in a meeting. He'll be out in 30 minutes. I've interviewed at a few companies that conducted hiring very poorly. I had several 2-3 hour interviews with a good 30 minutes of downtime while the people who wanted to talk to me were found taking breaks to do stuff while interviewing me. This was pretty annoying as interviewing for jobs is already exhausting and time consuming. 2. The job description is either too vague or too hyper-specialized. Unless you have a very unique set of skills in a niche industry or are applying for a general labor position, a well-crafted job description is an indicator of a good job. Otherwise you could end up in a job where you're doing extremely boring stuff or stuff you're unqualified for, or you could be micromanaged and expected to do way too much. 3. The office seems quite dull. If you don't hear phones ringing, people chatting, the buzz of meetings, etc. This could be an indicator of a company under stress. You could be getting hired to replace someone in a sinking ship or being hired to replace an experienced, high-paid professional, and you will become an 80-HR-week slave to replace them. If the interview seems like a pitch, the job will suck. If you hear the phrase work hard play hard anytime during the hiring process or in the job listing, the job will suck. If you interview with more than 2 managers at once, the job will suck. High turnover rate for your position is a really bad sign. We're a fun company, I'm sure. What's my job description? We don't have those. When your new co-worker tells you they haven't taken a decent vacation in 4 years. They're looking for an entry-level candidate. This normally means they're looking to pay below average, and it will take 2+ years to get to industry standard for that position. But the catch is, you'll be worked just as hard as someone who gets median or above average pay. You guys all have phone experience, right? We applied for fraud analysis and investigation. It was a call center. You have been visited by the swole skeleton. He'll give you good calcium if you subscribe in 5 seconds. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.